When JFK, John F. Kennedy, visited Cape Canaveral, he went to the bathroom. And in the bathroom, he saw a man sweeping the floor with a mop. And he said to the man, "Excuse me, what do you do here?" And the man put the mop down, and he said, "I'm helping to put a man on the moon." Now, if you think about it, that's the attitude that you want in every business. You want every one of your employees to say that. And you want in a family, every one of the family members to say something similar about what it is they're doing and why. And the why is the key thing. And many people in family businesses play around with organization charts and governance charts and job descriptions and draw boxes on bits of paper. But at the end of the day, it's a complete waste of time if the family haven't agreed the why, which is what is the purpose of the business? What is the family's purpose? What is the purpose of the wealth? What's it all for? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And it is a very difficult one because if you think about it, a business starts off with somebody wanting to create something, to create a bit of wealth, to put food on the table, to educate their children. And the purpose of the business is subsistence. And you move through the cycles, subsistence, success, you might make a bit of money, then you make a few investments, build the business, look after the family. But over 20, 30 years, the actual purpose gets lost in the wash. And I'll tell you a true story of a case in the UK where I was asked by the grown-up children of a very successful businessman to go and talk to Dad because they didn't understand what the future was going to be. And I went to see Dad, and I said, well, the kids want me to ask you, what's really happening with the future? How does it work? What's the plan? And he said, well, they know. I've told them so many times. What's the point? So I said, well, actually, they don't know. They're convinced they don't know. You may think you've told them, but they haven't. And he said, well, what do you want? And I said, well, they'd like to have a meeting. Anyway, it took 3 years to get this gentleman to come to a meeting because they wouldn't go to his office because his office was too busy, and he wouldn't pay for a hotel room because he had enough real estate and he wasn't going to pay for it. So there was already an impasse between them. Anyway, long story short, the meeting started. There's mother, father, and 4 grown-up children in the room. And the first, he said, well, what are we discussing? What's the question? And I said to him, well, we're really interested in understanding the purpose of all of this. He said, the purpose? He said, don't be ridiculous. He said, we employ 26,000 people around the world. He said, we're one of the most successful businesses in the United Kingdom. I've been doing this for 50 years. I don't know what you want to know. So I sort of asked the question again and got nowhere, and he got a little bit irritated. Then his wife came to my rescue. She, of course, was the CEO, the Chief Emotional Officer. And she said, I've been married to you for 50 years, and I've no idea why you go to work in the morning. Perhaps you tell me. He didn't like that. And as he was getting excited, his eldest son said, yeah, Dad, what about me? He said, I run the principal operating subsidiary, and I've done so for the last 20 years. He said, no, I've no idea why we're doing it. Perhaps you could tell me. At this point, this gentleman just walked straight out of the door, gone. So the family look around and they say, well, it's taken 3 years to have a meeting with him, and it's over in 90 seconds. What are we going to do now? So I said, well, he'll be back. He wants to control his family. He won't have his family sitting on their own with him walking around outside. He'll be back. So he came back after half an hour, and he apologized profusely, and he said, I've never walked out of a meeting in my whole business career. I'm terribly sorry. I can't understand what happened, but I've reflected on the question, and I realize what's happened. He said, I realize that I haven't paused for long enough to think about the question, let alone the answer, and I've now had half an hour walking outside, and I thought about both. And the answer is, I'm 72 years old. As far as I'm concerned, it's now time for me to say to you, what would you like it to be for? Because whatever that is good enough for me. And click. The succession process started, and everything was ever so smooth because everybody understood it. And what happens in that is that once the purpose is clear, you can do whatever you want as a family. And a family that has a shared vision supported by a set of common values is unassailable. You can't touch them because they can do anything they want. And I think there's a lot of lessons to be learned by making sure, before you do anything in a family, that everybody agrees what the destination is.